What's a podcast? I like your show.
How did I get here? Welcome to the Shipe Sports Show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Shipe Sports Talk Show. As your host, I am Matthew Shipe, joined always by my co-host and producer, Paul.
How are you, Matt?
Welcome back from your vacation, Paul.
Thank you. I'm rested and ready.
Back on the show today is Chris Cordova. Welcome back, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And joining us again is our new co-host, Anthony Ladicio. Anthony, welcome.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Doing pretty good. So we got a nice little packed show tonight. We're going to start off first. We're going to talk about the U.S. Ryder Cup Championship they just won. They brought the cup back home to America, which was awesome. Then we're going to get into our Stardom and Sit 'em for fantasy. And then we're going to get to the bulk of our show, which is we're going to preview, as you can see, what Anthony's wearing, what I'm wearing, National gear, Mets gear. We're going to preview the baseball playoffs. So first off, before we get to that, I want to say congratulations to the Wheaton High School 1996 State Championship football team, which Coach was a part of and the coaching staff. They honored them this past weekend at Wheaton High School for their 20th anniversary of winning the title. So congratulations to Coach and everyone on that staff and the Wheaton High School football team. It was the only state title in their history.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's big congrats in order for that.
Yeah.
20 years anniversary for that. So it was pretty neat. They had a little get together there. They were honored at halftime, all the coaching staff, whatever players came. So it was pretty neat. So let's get right into our first topic of the day, which will be the Ryder Cup, where America won 17-11. And excuse me, Anthony asked a question the other day. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about this. What it means when someone wins a match 3-2. So what that means is that basically they won the match by 3, and the 2 is they didn't have to play the final 2 holes. So you play an 18-hole match, so you could win, like 6-5, which means you won 6 matches. You don't have to play the other 5. So basically, the higher the number means you really beat someone up pretty good. So Anthony, I don't know if that helped elaborate what you were asking.
Yeah, that definitely helped me a lot. I really, I'm not a huge golf follower, so it was like when I was watching, I'm like, what does that mean 3-2? Like, and then when you explained it to me, it definitely, once you said that, I was like, that makes a lot more sense to me. So yeah.
Chris, I know you're not a golf guy. Does that make any sense to you?
I like putt-putt, so.
Yeah, I do like putt-putt. Well,
yeah, we'll have to have a putt-putt tournament.
That would actually be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, why not?
All right, so throughout this event, I'm sure Anthony saw some of the videos. They were really getting really wild in the crowd. We had one guy that was ejected because he looked at McElroy and told him to suck his thing. He was ejected. I think in total the whole weekend they had about 5 to 6 people ejected. It's the only time you'll ever see people boo when someone made a good shot for the European, and then when they miss, you'll hear a whole crowd, clap. It's really, you really don't see it often in golf. I'm sure Paul can agree with that.
Yep.
So it was really something, and this was the biggest. I think this was the best crowd they had for the Ryder Cup, just because everyone that was getting behind it, cheering, and the golfers really got behind it too. McElroy was probably the best for the Europe side. He would make a long putt. He was doing the quiet sign. He was telling the crowd to keep making more noise. And the thing about McElroy is the louder the crowd got against him, the better he got over the weekend. Now, he lost his final match by 1 to Patrick Reed, but I mean, it was just an incredible atmosphere. Phil Mickelson was getting involved, doing little shakes out there. So it was really something interesting. I think the best part, though, was the little ending picture. Chris, I don't know if you saw the picture I shared with Ricky Fowler.
That was the greatest thing.
They had all the golfers from America got together, and all of them have wives, girlfriends, except for Ricky. So you have everyone kissing, and Ricky's in the background, just like the little smirk on his face, 23rd wheeling.
He's getting laid. He doesn't know from who yet, but he's getting laid.
I have to agree with Chris on that.
So it was great, and I think what's even better about this was they won the Ryder Cup the week Arnold Palmer passed away. They had a great little ceremony for him. So I think it was almost like a great tribute to him. Like, hey, thank you. Let's win the Ryder Cup for you, and they did.
Yeah.
They had his golf bag on the first tee throughout the entire weekend, so it was pretty cool to see, and it was great for America. Now, in 2 years, they go back to Europe for it. So we'll see how the European crowd is with us over there after what happened this past year.
Yeah, I think the two greatest things I think that came from that was that picture. Obviously, just was awesome. Ricky Fowler just with that face, and think was it Bill Murray that started the America chant? Did
Oh
you
yeah,
guys see
Bill
that
Murray was
video?
crazy in the crowd. He was getting the
Yeah,
America chant going. Bill
yeah,
Murray, I think he's actually I think he's almost like a scratch golfer. I want to say he's pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that was pretty awesome. So let's move on to our fantasy start and sit 'em
Matt,
segment.
real quick on that. Is that the first time in the last was it like 7 or something like that they've won or something like
Yeah, I
I
think
was
it's been
hearing, right?
since 1999. I want to
I was
say.
gonna say it's been a while. I
Been
remember
a
they were
while.
mentioning it. So
So it's great that we finally won one.
yeah.
Europe's been kicking our butts, and it's funny. It's an event that for the past you think with people like Tiger Woods and Mickelson, we would have more, but Tiger Woods, to be honestly, he sucks during match play. I don't know what it is. He can't win 1-on-1. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Fair enough.
So let's move on to our daily fantasy segment or weekly fantasy segment where we do our stardom sit-ems. So as always, we start with quarterbacks. So Chris, take it away, buddy.
Well, I think this week for quarterbacks, it's kind of a no-brainer. You have to start Tom Brady. I mean, you have to. There's
Right.
like,
That's why
I
I
wouldn't be
do.
surprised if all three of us just said Tom Brady. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no
I
other.
switched it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other play. All daily fantasy, FanDuel, DraftKings, Fantasy Aces, whatever website you're on, Tom Brady will probably be the most owned quarterback this week. In terms of who do you sit, I think just because of injuries, you gotta take a look at Carson Palmer, which unfortunately I have him this week, coming off a possible concussion. They have a short week this week. I think even if he plays, you may have to sit him. He just hasn't been producing these past couple weeks.
No, I agree with you. Anthony, let's go with yours.
Okay, for my stardom, I have who had a decent game actually last week playing against San Diego's defense, who's been pretty rough. I have Derek Carr
Yep.
as a stardom. I agree again. I know all three of us had Tom Brady across the board, but
Yep.
since I knew that coming in that one of you would definitely
Somebody
have
was
it.
gonna say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I switched and went with Derek Carr. And then for my situm, I have Tyrod Taylor. I know he's another guy that really hasn't done too much yet. But why can't I find Tyrod Taylor here? They're playing the Rams. That's another defense that I think has been low key underrated. You haven't really heard too much, they've been getting to the quarterback, and with Sammy Watkins not in there, possibly saying he might be done for the year. I think that's a
Yeah.
huge miss for them. And the Rams really, to this point, they've been keeping low scoring games. The Cardinals this past week only had 13. The week before they get the Seahawks to 6. I know they always keep these West teams, in their division, especially low scoring games. But I think that's not a good matchup for Tyrod Taylor either.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the NFC West. They always play each other tough.
Yeah.
Like the defenses always show up in those matchups. It's fun to watch, but it's not really fun for fantasy wise.
No,
But
no,
it's definitely
no,
fun to
no.
watch.
I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. I mean, how can he's come back from the suspension? He's angry, and he's playing against the worst team in the NFL. I mean,
Come on, Matt. Don't take the easy way. Pick someone else.
Hey, Chris took the easy way. I'm taking the easy way.
No, hey, he
See?
went first. That's not the easy way.
Hey,
It would have been.
You chose me first.
Yeah.
You know what? Whatever.
Get
I'm
somebody.
going with the worst team in the league. He's mad. He's gonna put up at least 300 yards, probably more, and probably 3 touchdowns. I'm gonna go with that. 3 touchdowns plus 300 yards. He's gonna have a fantasy. He's gonna have a good game.
So he's not gonna have a Matt Ryan type game.
no,
he's
but he'll
gonna
have a Tom Brady type game.
Okay, all right.
But everything in the line perfect for him. Browns. What more could you ask for? Next, we'll do running backs, and Anthony, we'll start with you on running backs.
Oh, who's your situm? You didn't say your situm.
Oh, Brock Osweiler.
Okay.
He's playing against Minnesota, who, for whatever reason, lost your starting quarterback, lost your running back, and they're 4-0. Who would have thought?
Yep.
Because of that defense.
I got a question then. I'm running with Andrew Luck right now. Would you swap Osweiler with Luck?
No, play
Not
Luck.
this week. Play Luck this week.
Yeah, no, I don't like Osweiler. Like he said, the matchup against the Vikings defense has been really, really good.
Who's
I don't
Indiana
like
playing?
Chicago.
Yeah, I like that matchup a lot better.
Yep.
Running backs, I have DeMarco Murray as the start. I think he's just been constantly hitting. I don't know if you want to call it a rejuvenation, whatever you want to call it. I don't really never think that he was bad in his career. I just think the Eagles had no idea what to do with him.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins defense, and that's another team that had high expectations coming into the season, and they're really not doing much that I saw. And I think this is a game that the Titans need to win because the Titans have been in one possession games the last couple weeks, and they found
Every
ways
game
to
this year, they've lost by a touchdown or less. It's crazy.
yeah. So they found ways to lose them. Last week, I think there was that missed call in the end zone, and then they called that garbage offensive pass interference on Andre Johnson, which would have gave them the lead, but that's neither here nor there for that.
Well,
But
they
I
just
go
fired
with
their special team coach this week after that
yeah.
Fuller return.
The Giants should do that too. But speaking of the Giants, I'll move into my sit-em. Any New York Giants running back. The Giants have no idea what they're doing with running backs. They're saying Rashad Jennings is coming back this week. Orleans Darkwa didn't do terrible. Neither did the rookie Perkins or Rainey. But there's just too many guys back there, and they can't choose one guy. And I don't think you should play any running back in this week for the Giants.
All right. I guess I'll go second this time. I got Le'Veon Bell starting this week. Came back last week. I think had a great game. I mean, as we can say, Kansas City really. I mean, I think they got like negative points for their defense, but a great return for him. Playing against the Jets defense that I think hasn't been the best. I mean, McCoy had a pretty good game against them. Bell, as we said, he's a PPR back as well. And after being out, I mean, he could end up being a top 3 running back already in the league. So I mean, anyone who drafted him and put him away, that's paying off right now. You just had to survive 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he was worth that gamble. I mean,
look at me in
such a
our
bell
league.
cow like that.
I had to wait. I got my first win this week, and it was because of him. And now I have Brady coming back in that league as well. So you just have to do the waiting game. And then it's my sit-em, Corell, Isaiah, whatever. I can't say his last name now.
Isaiah Crowell.
Crowell.
You're right.
Corell, I said it right. Yeah. Playing against New England's defense. That defense has been tremendous this year, except for the past game. But I just think they're Cleveland. I mean, what can you expect? The only thing they have in that city is basketball and baseball. But the football team, I mean, what can you do with them? Chris, your running backs.
To start, I'm definitely gonna have to go with. Oh, you already said not DeMarco Murray. I'm thinking of the other guy, Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's leading the league in rushing yards this week. I know he's got a semi-tough matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, but that defense I think can get run on, and Ezekiel Elliott is just he's just going to get fed the ball pretty much all game. So based off of just leading the league in rushing yards, you got to start him. In terms of sitting, I'm going to have to go with Matt Jones this week. I don't know why. Coming off a pretty good game against the worst team in the league, the Browns. But I just think that this Baltimore defense is definitely going to step up this week after kind of being, a little bit tossed around against the Oakland Raiders. I think they're going to step up and stop the run this week.
All right. So let's move on to wide receivers, and I will start that off. I'm going to go with Mike Evans. Tampa Bay, they're playing against Carolina this week, and we saw what happened last week. And like what Josh Norman said, you get what you paid for. And I really think Carolina, no matter what they say, they are missing Josh Norman right now because they are getting torched week in and week out. I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champs, and they're 1-3. I don't think anyone saw this out of the gate. I think we all picked them to probably win the division, I'm pretty sure, and win, we picked them to be like 1 or 2 seed.
A lot of us had them in the NFC Championship game.
So I'm going to go with I think Mike Evans to start this week. If Jameis can give him the ball, everything, they could have a good week, or hopefully Jameis doesn't do what he did last week and turn the ball over in one of the first 2 plays of the game. My sit-em, DeAndre Hopkins. Last week, we saw what Tennessee did against Hopkins. It was, not many people probably saw that coming. And he plays Minnesota this week. So, I mean, if you're not going to start, if Brock Osweiler is going to be my sit-em, you got to put Hopkins in sit-em as well. I mean, he did not look good last. I think he had 1 catch for 4 yards against Tennessee, I believe. It was a big catch for a first down, obviously, but I mean, he's been on
fantasy
check
wise. That's not.
No, so I'm gonna go
really
sit
has
him.
not produced these past couple of weeks. Trust me, I know.
Yep. So we'll go with I think I took Anthony Sidham there, so we'll let him think about it for a second. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, for stardom, I'm gonna have to go with a player that did really, really well last week. Not Julio Jones. He obviously lit it up, but I think the second best receiver this past week was AJ Green against the Dallas Cowboys. I think Andy Dalton's going to be able to exploit that defense, and I think AJ Green is going to benefit from that pretty well. In terms of a sit-em, I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals, trio of wide receivers there. If Carson Palmer doesn't start, then you've got Drew Stanton in there as the backup, and he's just not a capable backup, and we saw that this past weekend. And like we just mentioned earlier, these NFC West matchups, the defense always seems to show up, and if that's the case, you got that kind of matchup, and also you got a backup quarterback. I think you got to sit the trio.
All right, Anthony, you've had time to think about your sit 'em
Yeah.
now, so go ahead.
My stardom, I have Kelvin Benjamin. I think that he's due for a pretty good week. You know, he had obviously 2 weeks ago he was held catchless. I think against that Buccaneers defense, he could really exploit the secondary. And you know, obviously that's still pending on what happens exactly with Cam Newton. I know they have a little bit longer this week, obviously till Monday, to get back in you know, the swing of things, and hopefully he's able to be 100% healthy and be ready for the game on Monday. But I like Benjamin there. Sit him, I agree with DeAndre. I switched it, but I had DeAndre Hopkins. I think Xavier Rhodes
Yep.
looked really well on Monday night. Obviously, I watched that game very closely. I think Odell had a rough night regardless. I don't know what was going on with him, but Xavier Rhodes was there on the coverage 90% of the time. So, and even Terrence Newman wasn't looking half bad either on the other side. So I think that's a nasty secondary for that matchup. But the guy I went with was Marvin Jones. I think the Eagles defense will do a lot there again, especially if Wentz is going to spend that much time on the field and make minimal mistakes. I think Marvin Jones is not a guy to start on Sunday against the Eagles.
All right, so we're going to move to our last one, which is tight end. So, Anthony, you go ahead and start it off.
All right. My starting tight end, very simple. He's getting back his guy. I think Rob Gronkowski is going to have a monster game on Sunday against that Cleveland defense. Like you guys have already mentioned about Tom Brady, I mean, I could list accolades on and on for him, but having that guy back in the fold and Gronkowski out there, I think is definitely something that people should be alert of and be ready to see a big game out of the both of those two on Sunday. And then for my sit-em is a guy that I know Matt picked up in one of our leagues as like a flyer, just needing someone, is Hunter Henry. I don't expect that same kind of production from him again that he had last week. I still think he's someone maybe to pick up and have, you know, on the bench, but I don't expect that kind of production from him again 2 weeks in a row.
All right. My stardom, you picked Gronk. I'm
one
going
of
to
our
go with
leagues
Bennett.
has, like, a
They're saying
flyer,
Gronk
just
is still
needing
not progressing good with that hamstring. It's still bothering him. And that's the case. I think Bennett's going to have a really good game for Brady. Even if he's out there with Gronk, we saw what kind of games Aaron Hernandez has had with Gronk when he was a second tight end. But I'm going to go with Bennett this week just because Gronk still isn't 100%. And my sit-em this week, Dwayne Allen. I mean, I just don't think he's had a good year so far at all. He was supposed to be, you know, a top 10 fantasy option, and hasn't been up there. So I'm going to go with Dwayne Allen. So, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Jordan Reed. We saw this past week against the Cleveland Browns.
About time, actually, too.
Yeah, I was gonna say we saw this weekend that him and Cousins finally hooked up over and over again. I think there was one drive where he hooked up with him maybe 3-4 times in a row. So it's definitely his time. He's gonna have to step up. Like I said, I think the Ravens defense is gonna kind of pick themselves back up after last week's loss. So I think they're gonna need to go to Reed, especially in the red zone. In terms of a sit-em, I'm actually gonna have to kind of disagree with Matt. I'm going to go with Martellus Bennett, and here's why. I don't think that
Where's the boo button at?
I don't think
Put it
that
up there.
Brady has enough chemistry with Martellus Bennett. And I think the reason Martellus Bennett had so many opportunities was Gronkowski was hurt, and also you had a backup quarterback who was looking for his safety blanket. And what Matt says all the time, who's a rookie quarterback or backup quarterback safety valve is their tight end. So I think if Tom Brady is going to throw to a tight end, it's going to be Gronkowski if he plays. And then if he doesn't, not he's going to play, but it's in terms of a snap count or if he's healthy or not. But I think this is probably going to be an Edelman game. I think he's due. Last week he had the first play of the game, I think, was like a 70 or 80 yard almost touchdown pass that got called back for offensive holding. And then after that, completely silent the rest of the game. So I think Edelman is going to have the game this week. Obviously, he's not a tight end, but that's definitely how I would say it's Martellus Bennett.
All right, so that is our fantasy our fantasy segment for the week. Like we said, we come back every week. We do a weekly sit-em, start-em. Me and Chris both post for daily fantasy for the weekend. I do DraftKings. Chris do FanDuel. Anthony, I don't know if you do any, but if you do, start posting your lineups online. Your best value lineup for the weekend.
Okay.
So let's move on to the big topic of the day, which is MLB postseason. And Chris seems to be on the phone. I was about to give him a congratulations. No, I can't.
All right.
So I'm sure he'll come back. But I want to say congrats to Chris because he's the only one on the show that got something perfect in the beginning of the season. We all did a baseball preview show. For the NL side, Chris guessed everything correctly for who's going to win the division, who's going to be in the wild card. Chris, I don't know if you heard that, but for our baseball preview, NL side, you guessed everything perfectly correct. I can't hear Chris
Yeah,
anymore.
we can't hear you. Maybe we should call him.
Sorry, no, that was my mistake. I had muted the mic. I didn't want the
Maybe
conversation
we
to
should
go
call him.
So Chris, congratulations on having everything
Thank
right
you,
in the NL
Anthony.
side.
It's because
I
I
like
know
that,
my
Paul.
baseball. You know what I mean?
Well, in the AL, you didn't look pretty good.
That's fine.
For me and my dad, we all had the Mets winning the wild card. So Anthony, we all had that. Difference between me, Chris, and all of them is I didn't have the Dodgers, neither did Coach, and I didn't have I had who was it? The Cardinals. We both had the Cardinals. Obviously, the Cardinals missed it. So
Yeah.
the baseball right now, what we have is tonight we have Tampa Bay. We have Toronto versus Baltimore for the wild card game. Tomorrow night, we have probably the best pitching matchup we could see in the playoffs until Friday night, which is going to be Bud Gardner and the Giants versus Syndergaard and the Mets. So let's start with that since we have our Mets fan in here. Anthony, first off, from a 1 to 10 scale, what's your confidence level?
Realistically, or
Realistically, come on, man. I'm asking a question. What's your confidence level in your team?
an 8.
You're really high up there right now.
All right.
High.
Yeah, I'm confident in the Mets. In a one-game series, I like the Mets' chances. Here's the thing about this is the matchup. I knew we were going to get this matchup. I told you this before, when I saw the way it was breaking down. I said the one pitcher I didn't want to see was who?
Bun Gardner.
And who did we get?
Of course.
I was hoping. I was like, please let the Cardinals pull one more game out and the Giants lose, and the two of them had to play, the day before, and then Bumgarner has to pitch that game. But I didn't want to see Bumgarner, and if it was the Cardinals, I didn't want to see Wainwright. So, we have to see Bumgarner, and unfortunately, that's the way the matchup's going to break down. I like Thor. I said from the beginning, if you got one game, one game, who you're going to pitch, even if this staff was full and they had all 5 of them, I choose Thor out of the 5 of them. Dating back to the World Series last year, he was the only one that won a game against the Royals. He had the poise despite, being one of the youngest ones out of all of them. He didn't have any issue going out there. And I think that's what you want to do. You want to put that, in your hand. You want to put the ball in the hands of the guy you feel most confident in, and I think that's what Syndergaard brings to the table. The Giants are going to do that same thing though on the other side of the mound, and they're going to do that with Bumgarner. So I think this matchup, like you said, has all the potential to be one of the best pitching matchups we see, and one of these teams is going home. So that's where I think that Yoenis Cespedes needs to step up, and you got to see some of these other guys like Granderson. A lot of these guys, they're not really. You're looking at the team. Flores now is officially done for the year, so they lost him now. There's no chance of him coming back in the postseason at all. I've already listed, show after show how many other people, but they lost. But this is where you got to rely on these veterans like Cespedes and Granderson, and you got to hope that they could pull through, to help this team. And even guys like Asdrubal Cabrera, who's been a really, really huge addition to this team, this year, to really, keep these young kids up and help them out. Guys like Conforto that they're gonna have to rely on. So we'll see how it works out. But I definitely like their chances. And my prediction is that the Mets will win tomorrow night against the San Francisco Giants to advance to the next round.
All right. Well, we'll just break it down by playoff series. Chris, who do you like in this playoff series?
I'm going to have to go with my World Series winner, and that's going to be the Giants.
All right. I personally actually was thinking about this game today. I think the great pitching matchup. I mean, it's hard to pick a winner here. I wish both teams could go on. I mean, honestly, the staffs these two teams have. I'm going to go with the Giants. History of the Giants in the postseason. You can never go against them. I like Bumgarner as a pitcher, but I think the bats for the Giants are going to be just a little bit better than the Mets. Like you said, they have a lot of injuries, and I think Cespedes how good he is, he can only carry this team so far. And we saw what he did last year, but last year, you got to think he had Daniel Murphy helping him out and everything. Jeez, I look a mess. But I just like the Giants, man. I'm gonna go with history and go with the Giants with their runs and recent memories.
A guy to keep in mind if the Mets do end up winning this game and watching the postseason, that kind of came on late in the season. A guy that we traded for is watch Jay Bruce. I think he could be a huge factor in the Mets making another run. If we have like that one bat
was a
that gets
good-
hot
yeah,
like we did
forgot about
last year
that.
with Murphy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
forgot they traded
I mean,
for him.
This is going to be a really interesting matchup. Like you said, the pitching matchup. Me not being really a avid baseball watcher, but I know both of these guys. You know what I mean? And this is a superstar matchup, so I can't wait to watch it.
absolutely. Paul, anything on that game, Paul, or not really for you?
Yeah, no, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Fair enough. I was just hoping maybe I could get someone to vote my way.
I actually don't
Honestly-
even know who's playing. I'm over here trying to set up the next scene. I'm like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
The only
Fair
reason I chose the Giants is because it's an even year.
Yeah,
That's
I was going to
really
say
it.
it's the last
That's it.
3 even years, right?
That's it. Yep.
All right,
That's
I'll go with the
exactly why I
Giants.
chose
Then.
it.
Thanks,
All right,
Paul.
let's move to the AL side of the wild card and talk about the other hometown team right up north on 95, the Baltimore Orioles versus Toronto, an in division, another in division game. And the Orioles just took 2 of 3 from Toronto in Toronto. So you have to think about that. We got Tillman tonight going against Stroman. I believe Stroman is a rookie, I believe, rookie pitcher. So that's a big spot for him. I think he's a rookie. I don't know. I have to look that up. But I'm going to go with the Orioles on this one because of their bats. The Orioles' bats can take them deep in this playoffs. I mean, you got Chris Davis, Machado, who's playing like an MVP.
Yeah.
Jones. I mean, you look top to bottom. Weeders, you look top to bottom. This lineup is almost one of the most complete lineups in baseball. And if they get to that 9th inning and they have a 1-run game, it's done. Over with. Toronto shouldn't even go up the bat. Zach Britton, I believe he's perfect this year. If I not correct, Anthony, am I correct on that? I think he's perfect this year, isn't he?
Who's this?
Zach Britton, the closer for the O's. I believe he's perfect.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there was one game where he was close, and I think he ended up.
I believe
they ended up,
he's a Cy
rounding the
Young.
double play or
He's a
something.
Cy Young candidate for the AL, and he should be with the way he's pitching this year. But if the Orioles take a lead into the bottom of the 9th and it's a 2 or 3 run game, sorry Toronto, unless you can have a miracle, it's it's going to be a closeout game. Jose Bautista, sorry buddy, he ain't going to be doing no bat flips this year. Chris, since you got the jersey on, let's go with you. What do you like about this series or this
Well,
game?
From what I read, I think they split this year. Not split this year, but
It was
I think it
10-9
really, yeah,
Toronto.
exactly.
That's
It was
why they
really
have,
really close. 10-9.
It was 10-9.
Exactly. So I think this is almost a coin flip. It's just going to be who can get the most hits and who can get the most runs, and I mean that's pretty obvious. But I'm gonna have to go with the Orioles. Like you said, I think their bats are really hot, and I think it end up winning maybe 6-4 or something like that. I can't hear Matt now.
Matt, we lost you there for a second, buddy.
Sorry, I had it on mute.
okay.
Graham just joined the chat, and he said Britton for MVP. So, I mean, the way the guy's been pitching, I mean, you wish a closer could get MVP. I think it's almost highly unlikely unless you get like 70-something saves, but Britton definitely should be a consideration for the Cy Young. So, Anthony, what's your pick for this one-game playoff?
I think the Orioles are going to win. I've been watching them down the stretch. I think Blue Jays both teams have been really good all year. I mean, the fourth team, the Yankees were not very far behind there either at the end of the year. I mean, most of the year they stayed, right there too. So
Right there.
they're very, very tough division as usual. Definitely the toughest division, I think, if you look overall in all of the MLB this past season. But yeah, I think the Orioles are going to win, and I think the Orioles are going to move on to the next round, and I'm excited to see how that pans out for them over there. Chris, do you know who they would play next if they win?
Let's see.
I have it right here. I mean, you could have just asked me.
Who would they play? Okay, Matt,
They
who
will
would they
be
play?
going against the Indians. Nope, sorry, Texas Rangers.
You have it right there, and you still get it wrong.
So let's move back over to the NL.
I like Graham's post though. Did you see that?
Yeah, he said the Orioles are going to win in 7 innings because of the slaughter rule.
Okay, that's right.
Graham, this isn't high school. There is no slaughter rules of 10 runs. Let's go back to the NL, and we'll preview the first two. So first, let's go with the wild card number 1 seed matchup with the Cubs. And Anthony, you'll have to preview it first since you have the Mets there. So Anthony, how do you think this will go?
Mets versus the Cubs?
Yep.
We're
We're
definitely
going
not
to go
going to
with
sweep
what
them.
you predicted in the wild
I
card.
can tell you
so
that. We're definitely not going to sweep them like we did last year.
You don't have the Cub killer.
You can't say stuff like that, dang it.
What?
Mr. Murphy, you're talking about? Is that who you're
Yeah, I
talking
can't
about?
say cup killer on it. We're
Of
fine.
course you can.
He's got a strain. He's still got a strained buttocks.
No, they said he'll be ready for game one.
And Bryce Harper has a.
Don't
you know-
no.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to say it? You want to talk about it? They're both injured.
Can't,
Both of your two top players.
we can't say what Harper's injury is, especially after what you just said.
Sure you
Oh, okay,
can. You
fine.
can say it. It's a medical
What's
term.
wrong with it?
It's
Yeah.
his finger.
His thumb.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they're both injured. I don't know what you're thinking about. What the heck's wrong with that? But both of those guys are injured. So back to what I was saying. Now we were talking about the Mets and the Cubs. I don't know if I really like the matchup for the Mets. You look about it; they're definitely outmatched on offense by the Cubs. There's no question about that with the offensive power the Cubs have. And the Mets don't have a rotation because now what happens is that would start on Friday. Is that right, or would it be
Friday,
is it
yep.
Friday? Okay, so Syndergaard, you're going to get Bartman in the first game.
You may not
Who's
get
next?
Syndergaard even in the second game.
But who's next? Even if he
Yeah.
pitches the second game.
You tell me.
Who's next?
Rookie?
Robert Gesselman, who actually down the stretch, he's a 23-year-old rookie who played great. But then you got those three. And you can't Syndergaard's going to have to get a full rest at some point because he's going to have to pitch game 2. So he pitches Wednesday if they win. Then he probably pitches again Sunday, right? They play 2 days later after between games. It's 2 days,
Was it
a day between.
Was it CC who went the wild card game and then went even more? The 1 year with the Brewers?
I
They
think
went
it was
on like
CC,
2
yeah.
days of rest
Mhm.
or whatever.
Which is fine, but when you don't have, it's not like they have anybody else to rely on. They're going to have to rely on one of these kids that they brought up in September. This was not something they planned for, so I don't like their chances there. The only way that their chance is if their offense just comes alive in the like last year with Murphy. So I don't know, man. I don't like the matchup. I don't want to say, I really don't want
gotta
to say
do
that
it.
the Mets will lose, but
Yeah.
the Mets will lose.
What's going to be the 3-1, 3-2, 3-0?
I'll give them 3-2. They'll try it. They'll try and push it for the 5th game. I think Bartolo can win a game, and I think Syndergaard can too. But I don't think they're going to win back-to-back game 1 and game 2.
The Syndergaard doesn't even come back until what? Game 3?
He's going to pitch game 2. That's what I'm
Game
thinking.
2. Okay.
Especially if they lose game 1, I think
But you got
they'll
to think
push
that's
him to
Wednesday,
pitch
and
game 2.
that's only a
And then they'll
3-day rest though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They play back-to-back game 1 and game 2, or
Yes.
is there a day in between?
Friday,
yeah. So
Saturday.
then he's not going to pitch he shouldn't pitch till game 3.
Yeah.
Shouldn't, but they did skip his last start, I think, because originally he was going to start that game on Sunday, but when they clinched Saturday, he didn't pitch.
Yep.
So he was able to pitch Wednesday. So they might do that. And for some reason, they can, like I said, it all depends on how this game pans out Wednesday. If they win, if they lose, obviously we don't have to have this discussion. But if they can, if they can chase Bumgarner out of the game and they get 8 runs for some miraculous way, they might pull Syndergaard after 4 or 5 innings and go to the bullpen.
All right.
So it really all depends on how this game pans out tomorrow, but I don't see the Mets making a lengthy run regardless of the fact without at least a third. If they would have 3 solid starters, I think the Mets could make some kind of movement, but it's going to be really hard for them with just Bartolo and Syndergaard from the opening day rotation.
Okay. Real quick before we move on to mine and Chris's matchup, Graham just asked, what do you think the score is going to be tonight? I have the Orioles winning 6-3.
Yeah, I said it 6-4. I think it's going to be close pretty much up until then, but 6-4 is what I got.
Anthony? Just a quick prediction of the score tonight.
5-3 Orioles.
All right, that's good. All right, so we'll get now to Cubs versus Giants for me and Chris. And, my earlier...
And Paul said the Giants.
Yeah, and Paul did say the Giants.
Paul too.
I did say the Giants.
So early in the year, I had the Cubs. But the more I'm thinking, the more, they look down the stretch and everything. We don't have to go what we did earlier this year, obviously. I'm going to go on the Chris bandwagon. I'm going to go with the Giants. I think the pitching for the Cubs that we saw down the stretch, they were struggling a little bit, I believe, with Arrieta. For some reason, he came down to earth a little bit in the last couple months of the season. And I really like the Giants. I think the Giants are going to make it to the NLCS again. So I'm going to go with the Giants. Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of the opposite.
3-1. 3-1. It's going to be 3-1 for me.
Wow.
I was just going to say the opposite. Even though, like you said, in the stretch, the Cubs pitching was not as good as it was during the regular season or the beginning of the season. I think I think this team is just too good. I think that the pitching rotation is just too good to lose. Uh, best of five.
So you're going with the Cubs?
Yeah,
What's it going to be?
3-0.
probably 3-1.
Okay. All right. Let's move to the bottom half of the bracket where we have the Nats versus. What's up, Anthony?
Real quick, if the Mets win, do you both see the Cubs winning, or you think the Mets have a chance? Just if the Mets do end up winning tomorrow,
Cubs.
and you take the Cubs easy.
Yep.
I know he'll stick with the Cubs. I would think
Sorry,
over the.
just the pitching. Like
Well,
you
for
said.
you picked the Giants, so that's why I wanted to see if you
Out
thought the
Cubs.
Mets have a shot.
No.
Okay, sweep
Yeah.
them.
3-1.
Okay, cool. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, you're fine. All right, let's move down to Nats versus Dodgers. Just came out today that Murphy will be playing in Game 1, so they'll be back to full strength. The only thing they're going to be missing during the series will be
Wilson Ramos.
Wilson Ramos, obviously, and Steven Strasburg.
When does he come back? By the way.
Strasburg, they're saying maybe not till the World Series if they make
Wow.
it that far.
Okay.
The pitching matchup for Game 1, Kershaw versus Scherzer, probably the top two guys in contention for the Cy Young this year. I don't. Do the voting comes out after the World Series and everything, right? I believe for the awards, Anthony.
Usually, yeah. So either that
maybe
or during it. Yeah.
They may take this in consideration about this pitching duel, but should be a good matchup, I think, especially hitting wise and pitching wise. And now I know the Nationals. You're not going to have Strauss, but you got Tanner Ward going Game 2, who's won 16 games this year. A very good, number 4 pitcher that was on the staff that quickly emerged as their number 2 guy. Question for the Nats: who pitches Game 3? Do you try to turn around if you're up? If you're down 0-2, do you quickly turn around Scherzer, try to get that third, maybe get a win? Or maybe if you're up 2-0, maybe you try to get Scherzer in there to punch it out for Game 3. You don't know what you have. It's either going to be, if not that, Joe Ross is going to have to come back and be strong. You may have to go by a committee. Ross, bring in Lopez, maybe bring in Gonzalez, or maybe Gio gets to start. So I think the number 3 pitching for the Nats is really up in the air. Bullpen for the Nats with the closer they got from the Pirates. He's really settled down that bullpen now that Papelbon is, an afterthought after all the, the beginning of the season, what's going on with him. The problem with the Nats, I think it's going to be I think their offense is fine. Harper, I think Anthony can agree the last 2 postseasons, he's gotten hot at the right time in the postseason, especially, against the Giants 2 years ago. He's the only one hitting. Cardinals, his rookie year, he was hitting. And we have Daniel Murphy, who, as we saw
How'd you guys
last
do in
year.
the postseason last year?
Huh?
How'd you guys do in the postseason last year?
We didn't make it. I said 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Just want to make sure.
That up. It's like,
Just want to make sure.
okay, that's all right. We won the division 3 out of the last 5 years, but that's okay.
Then how much hardware you got to show for it?
I mean, how much do you have?
NLCS trophy we have at least.
All right, we can stop.
I just want to make sure, and that happened last year.
Okay.
Just want to make sure it happened last year.
Very tough about your team.
Okay.
So we got
continue.
Daniel Murphy, who has a good postseason run, as Anthony will know what he did for them last year. Single-handedly got them to the World Series. I think you can agree on that.
Wouldn't say single-handedly, but he was definitely a huge addition. Pitching has to do something.
Yeah. Also, Harvey wasn't being a little. I don't know what was going on with him.
Don't worry about Harvey.
Leave that alone. Rendon's getting hot towards the end of the season. So, I mean, with all that, like I said, the hitting's still there for the Dodgers. But I have the Nationals winning this series, and I have it 3-2. I have it going to a Game 5 back in Nats part, and I think the Nationals finally get over that hump and win it 3-2. So, Anthony, I'll start with you. What do you got?
I think the Dodgers are going to surprise a lot of people. They didn't get out of the first round last year, and that was a tough series against them and the Mets the first round last year. But I think Kershaw is going to come out and set the tone for that whole series. And I think that once Scherzer loses that first game, you're really going to rely on Tanner Roark, and he's going to be in a big spot. But Gio really hasn't shown me a lot this year to really have that faith in him to be in a big game. And I think that it's going to be a 3-1 series win for the Dodgers.
Chris?
I think it's going to come down to the first game. Honestly, Kershaw versus Scherzer. I think the winner of that matchup essentially is going to win the tiebreaker for it 3-2 either way. I think that's going to be it. I mean, this question is coming from someone who doesn't really watch baseball. Is it possibility to just kind of maybe lay down the first game, you know what I mean, and just focus on Game 2 and 3 instead of wasting Scherzer's start on a Kershaw start, you know what I mean?
I think no, because you're at your home place and you got to come out strong at home. in a playoff, in playoff series, especially basketball, hockey, you can never really let the team win. You can never let another team come into your house and win because that means you have to go there and get a win, and it's really hard to win on the road in any sport you're in.
If I had to choose a pitcher, and we're talking 100% health, I would choose Clayton Kershaw over Max Scherzer. I don't know about you guys, but
In the
as
postseason, I don't trust
no,
Kershaw
I'm just
whatsoever.
talking just period, just
Yeah, no,
period.
I
I
100%
mean,
agree with him.
so I mean, like I said, this is coming from someone who doesn't really watch baseball too often, except for in the postseason. So I'm just thinking strategy, best of 5 games. If we're gonna possibly lose this game, we might as well save his start for game 2 or game 3 or something. But you know, that's
I
just my thinking.
I definitely think that there's definitely some good ideals about that idea for sure, because like you said, Kershaw's the best pitcher in the NL. He might be the best pitcher in the MLB. Um, so going into that game, it's going to be a tough matchup. Like Matt said, especially in a 5-game series, it's a lot tougher,
Yeah, but
especially
here's
at
also
home, to
another
give up
issue.
that game. I don't think I would pitch Scherzer. I think I would pitch him game 2. I think you still have to put one of your best guys out there, but I think maybe you should.
Yeah.
I just think
But
you
here's the
pitch your
problem.
best
Let's
guy.
say
You don't
pitch
pitch your best
Scherzer
guy
in
against your
game
best
two.
guy.
If you pitch Scherzer in game 2,
Right.
then what if he's not ready for game 4? What if you need that win in game 4? That's why if you put him in game 1, he's guaranteed for game 4. If you pitch him in game 2, he may not be guaranteed if you need a win.
But then he
That's why
pitches
you
game
go game
5 if,
1,
if you're on that logic. That you have to have your best
Yeah.
pitching twice in a series like that. I agree with you 100%
Okay.
about that.
which is why you need
But
Scherzer game 1 so he's
I
available.
said it's not like I said, especially if you're playing back-to-back games, I get it. If you want to pitch him game 2, but you got to pitch your best. If you can pitch your best twice in a series, that's always what you want to do. So
Well,
that's why I think
And
their
Kershaw
logic
doesn't
is
have
right
the
now.
best track record in the playoffs. We've all seen it.
I mean, and he is he's just coming off the disabled list, so I mean he's vulnerable. I think this is probably the best time. I think if you're going to play him, you might as well play him now. But when you think about it, like you said, if you want your best pitching to pitch twice, then I guess you got to pitch him for game 1.
Yeah, you got to pitch him game 1, and you got to
All
hope
right.
maybe if something goes down game 1 and say Scherzer loses it, you got to hope that in game 5 Scherzer can get that rebound game
Right.
and win that game to put them into the next round. So that's kind of
Right.
where I think that's where their head is, with that as far as that goes.
Yeah, and if you're going to put it that way, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You got to shoot for that.
All right, so Chris, who do you have then?
This is tough. Like I said, it's going to come down to that first game, and I think that's going to be the winner. But I'm going to go with the Nationals. Let's hope they win it.
3-1, 3-2, 3-0.
I guess it's going to be right to the last game, 3-2.
Okay. All right, we're gonna save our predictions for the NLCS for next week's show, and we can focus on go round by round every week. I think we all can agree on that. Pretty good.
I mean,
Sure.
if you want to, do you want to just do it now? Because then we could switch it based off of how the games go for the first.
Well, that's why I want to wait until next Tuesday to do the NLCS because we'll get a good understanding of what's going on because I think like 3 games will be done by then almost.
Okay.
So let's move back to the AL real quick. Get the division round done. We'll have Texas, and all of us have Texas versus the Orioles. I'm going to be the surprise guy here, and I'm going to take the Orioles 3-2. I just think the Orioles bats, if they can get hot during Toronto and they keep hot, I mean, there's only so much you can do. And like I said, if they get to that bullpen, you're not scoring on the O's. And if they can jump out to 5-6 runs a game, I mean, what can you really do about that? So I'm going to go with the Orioles riding their bats into the ALCS. And Chris, we'll go with you.
Well, I have the Orioles, and then they're facing the Red Sox, aren't they?
No, they'll be going against the Rangers.
The Rangers? Oh, I'm thinking too far ahead.
Yep.
I kind of wanted to see the. I know I chose the Orioles, but I think it'd be nice to see another fight between the Blue Jays and the Rangers. I think that's going to be exciting if it happens. But I don't know, man. The Orioles, they do have hot bats, but I don't know if I trust them to go that deep. So I'm going to go with the Rangers.
All right. What's it going to be?
Probably 3-1.
Okay. And Anthony?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with the Rangers 3-1. I think the Rangers, the offense has been pretty good this year for them, and I think that they'll continue to advance. I think that this game tonight, I think, is going to be a big time back and forth game, and I think it's going to take a lot out of whoever wins in that first game, and I think that's going to be the game that's going to really hurt them because I think the Rangers are going to win that first game, and that's going to kind of set the tone for that series.
All right. Let's jump down to Cleveland versus the Red Sox. Both these teams were pretty much even throughout the regular season in terms of record. I'm going to go with the Red Sox. I think, as we've seen before in every sport, when there's a guy retiring, for some reason the team rallies around him during the postseason. We saw it with Ray Lewis and the Ravens, Strahan and the Giants. I mean, I know I'm talking football here, but it seems to happen when something goes on like that. And I think David Ortiz is going to carry this team. He's going to carry momentum, and you got Betts on the team, Mookie Betts, who's playing really good. I think they have a really good pitching staff. David Price, leading that staff, the great bullpen. I like Cleveland. I just, for some reason, I think the Red Sox are going to ride David Ortiz's retirement and give him a nice little send off here. And depending on what we talk about next week, whether how far they get, but I'm going to go with the Red Sox winning the series 3-0. I think it's going to be a sweep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's bold.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anthony, we'll go with you.
I also have the Red Sox winning. I have them winning 3-1. But yeah, I like their pitching again. I like Buchholz too. Like you said, David Price already. And I know I'm missing someone and I can't, but Mookie Betts, another guy that's been a huge play. Jackie Bradley Jr., David Ortiz. That's the big thing. Like you said, you can't, the emotional standpoint that he's going to have to play in that game since it's his retiring year. And he's been, I mean, I think he was either had 40 home runs or he was just shy of 40 home runs on the year. So, I mean, he just had a great season in his final season, and I think that's going to carry over well. And I think the Red Sox are, I know we're going to talk about next week, but I think the Red Sox are due for a very long journey into this postseason.
Yep. All right. And Chris?
I'd like to see Cleveland advance. I'd like to see LeBron James carry this team and Cleveland to win their second championship of this year.
David Ortiz had 38 home runs, by the way.
38. I knew he was just shy of it. That's what I thought.
All right, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just messing. I think the Cleveland won the AL Central, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, that's why they're here.
I think, like you said, when you got a legend like Big Papi Ortiz, retiring, and this is being his last ride, there's going to be a lot of emotion to get that win, to get those wins, especially away, since they're not starting in Boston. But I think they're gonna win 3-1.
Boston?
Yeah.
All right, so we all have Boston. I have 3-0. You guys have 3-1. So there we go, guys. For our next show, we'll keep it going. We'll talk about our NLCS predictions. We'll advance every week to the World Series finally. So, I mean, stay tuned. Every week, we're going to have postseason baseball here.
Let me ask you before we wrap everything up.
Yep.
What are each of your dream storylines or dream matchups that you'd like to see? Whether it's before the World Series or right now.
I can tell you right now.
Nats
Orioles Beltway World Series. We got we saw the Subway Series with
Subway Series. Yeah.
There's one year. I'd love to see a Beltway World Series.
That happened. I don't remember that World Series that much.
Huh?
That happened. I don't remember that World Series. That's why we had to close Shea Stadium.
Even though it didn't go your way, it's kind of cool to see that.
It was. No, it definitely is. It's a very cool
and
thing.
I think for our area, it's great because you listen to the talk shows. Orioles fans come on and they talk smack about the Nats. Nats talk smack about the Orioles on who who you should be a fan of. Why are you stuff like that. I think a Beltway Series would be great and it'd be great for the city. I mean, it's almost a win-win for this area. Obviously, we want the Nats to win. You want Baltimore, but I would love to see that. So, Chris, yours?
I kind of would have to agree, but to use a different, I guess, headline or something, I think I'd like to see the Indians and the Cubs. Just both teams with the drought and basically somebody winning the World Series.
Cleveland had their drought over in April with championships. They're fine.
For every team. We're talking about just baseball right now.
I'm just saying. I think that would be pretty interesting to see, other than the Orioles and Nationals.
Anthony?
Something you guys haven't mentioned yet. I know it's probably very unlikely, at least for the one team, which is my team, the Mets, but this is 30 years to the day where the two of them met in 1986 and Buckner let that ball go, through his legs, and the Mets won the 1986 World Series. So
started the curse.
Yeah, I mean, well, the curse has been going on for long,
but it was,
but before that. But I would love, that would be huge. You think about 30 years that you got to see that matchup again. I mean, obviously, I think the outcome would be a lot different for the Mets. But think of how crazy that would be if they had Ortiz at first because it's in an NL park and he's the one that lets could you imagine that headline in his retirement year? He lets the ball go through his legs and that's how the
Don't
Mets
say
win
that.
30 years later though, man. Think about it. How crazy
know,
would that
that'd be crazy.
Obviously, I don't think the Mets are even getting out of the first round, but I think the Red Sox, I really would love to see Ortiz get the proper send-off. He's one of the greatest baseball players I've ever gotten a chance, me personally, to watch and actually see him, growing up, watch him play, and always stay true to the Red Sox. So I see my friend Josh in there, a big Red Sox fan, wrote, seriously, Buckner. I had to bring it up, Josh. 30 years, World Series coming up, in the next month or two. So, but I would love to see them finally get, give him that send-off he deserves. So I think them, and again, I agree with Chris. I would love to see if it's going to be any NL team. I'd love to see the Cubs. It's time to at least get them in that, in that light and give them that shot to break the curse.
Yep. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this week's edition of the postseason preview. We'll come back next week with our ALCS, NLCS. So, Paul, I think it's on to you, buddy.
Thank you, Matt. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me turn it up
Yep.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thanks, everybody, on the Facebook chat room. You guys are blowing it up. It's keeping it entertaining, that's for sure. Watching all the likes go by, that's really awesome to see. So make sure, if you haven't already, followed us on the Facebook, the Facebook /Shipe Sports Talk, and all the social media outlets at Shipe Sports Talk. So at Shipe Sports Talk for Twitter, shipesportstalk@gmail.com, and of course shipesportstalk.com, the website. We're gonna have to revamp that website, I think, because we're moving more towards videos and things like that. But we'll get that fixed and situated. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. On
Any crazy talk tomorrow, Paul?
No, actually, no.
Also for OT3, mine and Anthony's wrestling podcast, we're gonna try to get something later this week. We'll work it out with our awesome producer Paul. If not, obviously we'll be back next Monday to discuss No Mercy. So look forward to that, maybe this week or back to next week. We'll talk to Paul about that.
Cool. That's all.
And
I
then
had.
sorry, Paul. Paul, you got anything else?
That's all I had. Nope.
So, like I said, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening in the chat room right now on Facebook, please go over to our YouTube channel. Please give us a like, subscribe, give this video a like, share it, show all your friends. We really appreciate it. We want to thank everyone in all the chat rooms for watching. Like I said, next week, tune in again for our MLB Keep On With The Postseason Preview Show. We'll talk about the League Championship Series for our predictions. Our Fantasy Focus segment every week, our start and sit-ems. Look for mine, Chris's, and Anthony's now best value lineup. OT3, the wrestling podcast, on Mondays, also at 7. So for myself, Chris, Anthony, Paul, thank you for joining us. Have a great evening and go enjoy some baseball. Go Orioles.
Good luck to your Orioles, Chris. Have a good night, everybody.
Go Nats.
Man, if it's Nationals and Orioles, we got to go to a game. Even if the
If the Mets are there, I already told them I'll have to take a ride over there.
Oh, all right. Let's do it. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
Tailgate.
Can you tailgate?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. I've only showed up to.
Yeah, I've never tailgated at a baseball game.
At a
too, so
baseball
I'm not-
Well, or Nats you can't because you take the Metro.